Welcome to Torah Smash, the podcast for nerdy Jews, where our lives of Jewish learning collide with our love of nerd culture. In each episode, we discuss what we lovingly call a Torah Smash, which we have defined as a beautiful collision of one thing from the world of Judaism with another from nerd culture. I am RDY, and joining me today are...
Barack Malkin.
Ethan Lane Miller.
Good to see you guys.
I'm so
Hey, hey,
glad.
Hey, hey, hey. I had mentioned in our little group chat that today we're discussing Judges 6 through 8. So first of all, I want to say that today's episode is dedicated to Barak's family, and you'll know why in a moment.
What?
And it has nothing to do with the smash itself. Are you familiar?
What? Totally unrelated. I'm just going to dedicate this to the
Because of the
family I
name of the
love.
main character who's in Judges 6 through 8.
Oh, okay.
The judge in Judges 6 through 8 is Gideon.
It'll do it. For
Okay, okay.
for RDY's sister Susan, who I've never met in person. Gideon's the name of my son.
Are either of you familiar with the biblical story of Gideon?
Vaguely.
Okay.
I am not.
Okay. I'm going for the two of you and for Jason and Susan and anyone else who's not familiar. It is not a very oft studied portion of the Bible. It does cover 3 chapters, so it is a bit lengthy. I'm going to hit the highlights, but this may take a minute. Please enjoy. So, as I mentioned, Gideon's story is covered in Judges 6 through 8. Gideon is chosen by God to lead the Israelites against the Midianites. At first, he's wary of his calling. In a scene characteristic of a prophet being called to action, he resists, painting a picture of a reluctant leader. His first duty given to him by God is to destroy the altars to Baal in Ophrah, where he lived, which belonged to his father Joash. Now, Baal, for a little extra detail, is the name of any false god. It's kind of the generic name for an idol. Gideon, not wanting to be discovered in his act of defiance, destroys his father's altar at night and builds a new altar to God. The next day, they actually find out that it was Gideon, but his father Joash stands up for him and says Baal should fight his own battles if he's a real god. So Gideon is then given the name Yerubbaal, which means who contends with Baal. And I'm sorry I didn't think of him when we discussed recently characters who've changed their names.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry I missed that one. Soon after, Midian, Amalek, and Kedem join forces and camp in the valley of Jezreel. Enveloped by Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God, Gideon rallies the troops of Israel with a single blast of his shofar, gathering a massive army. With one blast of the shofar, he forms an army of 32,000 men. They camp out at Ein Harod, and God tells Gideon to let go of any men who are scared to leave. So he gives this speech, says anybody who wants to go home can go home. 22,000 of them leave, and God says that's still too many. So God tells him to take his troops to the water, and anyone who lies down on their belly and laps up the water is allowed to stay, and anyone who kneels and scoops up water with their hands is asked to leave, because God doesn't want anyone who kneels to anything but God to be fighting for God. So what that leaves Gideon with is 300, we'll call them lappers. So the 300 lappers make camp above the Midianites who are on a plain. At this point, God tells Gideon that if he's afraid, he can go into the Midianite camp with his servant to listen to them. And they hear a man talking about a dream that is interpreted by another Midianite as God delivering the Midianites to Gideon.
This is all in 6 through 8?
Yeah,
Crazy. Okay.
I'm about halfway there.
Okay.
Gideon hears this and devises a plan for these 300 men to overtake the Midianites. So now we're in the middle of chapter 7. Gideon and his army surround the Midianite camp as they sleep, and on Gideon's cue, they all sound shofars, smash clay jars, and shout battle cries, screaming. The Midianite army wakes up confused and scared and starts stabbing each other with their swords. Most kill one another, the rest run away, and the Gideon's 300 lappers finish off whoever's left over. Then Gideon sends a message to the Ephraimites. Ephraim is one of the tribes of Israel, asking them to cut the Midianites from their water supply. So maybe this is where Napoleon got his battle tactics for all you history buffs. The Ephraimite army captures the Midianite generals Oreb and Zeb, whose heads they bring back to Gideon. We're crossing over into chapter 8.
Great.
The army of Gideon then crosses the Jordan, chasing the remainder of the Midianites. As they pass through Sukkot and Penuel, he asks their leaders to spare food for his soldiers. At both cities, they refuse to give Gideon any help, and he promises to wreak havoc upon them on his return. Sure enough, Gideon is able to successfully capture Zeba and Zalmunna, Midian's two kings, which sends the Midianites into a panic, thereby completing the defeat of the rest of the Midianite army. When he returns to Sukkot, he threshes the town elders with thorns and briars, and he tears down the tower at Penuel.
This is very uplifting.
Yeah. It's a military campaign.
Yeah.
When this campaign ends at the peak of his violent behavior, Gideon then tells his son Yeter to kill Zeba and Zalmunna. And when Yeter cannot, the two kings taunt Gideon. So Gideon kills them himself and takes the medallions off of their camels' necks. And then the Israelites, after all,
off of the camels' necks?
yeah, it's an odd detail that the Bible gives us. So the Israelites then ask Gideon to be their king, but he refuses, saying only God can rule over you. And this statement seems to characterize Gideon as a noble, selfless Yahwist, someone faithful to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. But then he makes the mistake of taking one earring from each man the Israelites defeated as booty. So he collects 1,700 shekels worth of gold, makes an ephod, one of those metal breastplates that hangs decoratively on a priest, out of it, and he sets it up in Ophrah. And this ephod becomes the downfall of the house of Gideon, because even though the Israelites enjoy 40 years of peace because of him, it's also because of him that they again backslide into worshiping Baal, because they worship the ephod instead of worshiping God at the altar Gideon erected. And by the time Gideon dies, he has family, wives, 70 sons, and among his sons is Avimelech, who becomes king after Gideon's death. And that's Judges 6-8. Takes a long time, I know. But I wanted you two to be familiar before we started discussing the nerdy connection, with whom I think you will be familiar.
So that's
That was a lot.
Let me try and do it in a really concise way. Gideon is a prophet who gets Ruach Elohim, which in my interpretation of Bible, you should know by now, means he's a superhero. So because he gets Ruach Elohim, he has a superpower. His superpower seems to be the ability to blow his shofar and summon 32,000 men. But I think it's more than that. I think it's also his strategy, his abilities in battle, and his willingness to give all the credit to God.
Okay. My first thought was Aquaman, about being able to summon people. But
yes, I was like, I had the exact same guess of like, who could summon 30,000 of something?
You don't know me very well.
Aquaman could do it.
Yeah, but then you went on talking about tactical intelligence. Like, I know it's not Aquaman, but I'm still going to throw it out there as
yeah. I also feel like there is a bit of a tragedy story in this, of like superhero turned, seemingly bad, doing the things he shouldn't be doing after the strategical war stuff. So like, I don't know, Doctor Doom.
That's a really good guess. It's not where I was going. And I would say stick to the more generalities.
Okay. But we're on the right track with like superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know any superhero that can summon 30. Ant-Man.
Oh, that's a good one too. Little more mainstream. Think more in the
Paul Rudd's pretty mainstream, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jewish too.
Yeah, he's the one who said he doesn't practice Judaism because he's
Yeah.
perfected it.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with.
Okay. Mainstream can summon 30,000 of things, and it's a bit of a tragedy. No, no tragedy.
I mean, every superhero that I love has tragic elements to
30,000.
their story.
Is it like 30,000 gigawatt, like the Thor with the lightning?
Think more about his role. Like he's a prophet and a military commander.
It's Batman.
Batman's not military.
It's
He's not
not
a soldier.
Batman. He pays money to summon things and people.
Is it Transformers? Transformers are
No.
they're soldiers and they summon Autobots. Hey, we give up.
Today, we are going to be talking about Captain America,
Oh.
Oh,
Have we
the
not done a
super
Captain
soldier.
America yet?
We have done Captain America Brave New World,
Sure.
but we talked mostly
That's
about,
not, yeah.
yeah, yeah, we
yeah.
didn't talk about Captain America, the character.
Cool.
And I do want to say that my goal is to talk more about the comic book version of Captain America than the movie version, though there are elements of the movie version that of course apply to this.
Yeah.
Captain America, or Cap, as his fans call him, first appeared in a post-Depression America on the cover of Captain America #1, punching Hitler in the jaw.
That was
Right
his first
on.
that was his first issue?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't realize it was his first one. Was he not as part of any of the previous war comics at all?
Um, well, 1941 was in between wars.
Right, but they retrofitted him into the Howling Commandos because the Howling Commandos and Nick Fury had its own war comic. That's what I was asking. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, in 1941, punching Hitler in the jaw was pretty
Yeah.
forward. It was pretty forward thinking. And, you know, a character designed by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, two Jewish guys, like what a great feeling it must have been for them to be able to even in a space of literature punch Hitler in the jaw.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't mind getting to punch Hitler in the jaw.
yeah, right. In a book called Avengers: The Ultimate Guide, Tom DeFalco says Marvel's biggest success during the Golden Age and one of the top-selling superheroes of all time, Captain America, is first and foremost a manifestation of patriotism. His debut preceded his country's entry into World War II, and he rode the wave of public spirit that followed Pearl Harbor. Thus, he identified himself forever with a period that may have been the golden age of the United States as much as it was the golden age of comic books. So he is not only the ultimate soldier, but like the ultimate American in the eyes of the 1940s comic books readers.
Are we gonna discover in this episode that we didn't realize that Captain America is Jewish? We're gonna
I know, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, and Captain America, like Gideon, gets a name change. And like Gideon, kind of bucks against his name change, pun intended.
Pun intended. There it
This
is.
is this is good, RDY.
In Judges, Gideon is named Yerubbaal, but he never calls himself that. He goes back to Gideon almost immediately. And everybody calls Captain America or Cap, but he only refers to himself as Steve or Steve Rogers.
Well, he also I don't know Gideon's story as well, but Cap was like a great pick for the character, and the movie focused in on this a lot because Cap wasn't he was an underdog person, and so I think for a while really didn't picture himself as what everybody else viewed him as, and so he didn't lift himself up to be higher. But the fact that you said Gideon created a breastplate for himself is not how I would describe Cap.
Right. That was where I got the idea for the shield to be like where people make the mistake of Cap like being all about his shield. There's a frame in one of my favorite Captain America comics, and I'm gonna botch this a little, but he's having a conversation with a scientist, and he's like, "Wow, that's kind of amazing. Where'd you get it?" And he's like, "Well, Tony Stark made it for me. It's an adamantium alloy or whatever." And he says, the scientist says, "Does it have a name?" And he goes, "You mean like Sparky?" And the scientist is like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Do you have a name for your right arm?" Scientist goes, "I don't need one." Cap goes, "Exactly."
Hmm.
So I think that maybe Gideon's error of making the effort and putting it on display is similar to in a kind of a semi-inverted way of people thinking Cap is all about the shield.
Hmm.
He's
Sure.
much more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Although it was one of my favorite lines in, I believe it was Avengers Endgame when Black Panther says, "And get that man a shield." I was
Yeah.
like, yeah.
So you reference, Avengers Endgame, and I'm familiar with the MCU, but I'm not familiar with Cap as a comic book character. So I would love to learn a little bit more about that side of him.
Yeah. Um,
Well, can I just say that I think the movies have done a great job of pulling a lot of the comics stories, right? Because I'm familiar. I watched a lot of the '90s cartoons, and those also pulled directly from the comics. And so whenever I'm watching one of the Marvel movies, and they start to pull one of the popular storylines that was in a comic that was pulled to a '90s TV show, the Marvel then pulled it into a modern day retelling. And so a lot of what you see is what was in the comics. It's especially I think Captain America doesn't have like a whole lot of shift from the comics. Maybe like fine details, but the overall story is pretty spot on.
in the movies, he's portrayed as a hero trapped out of his own time. And that does occur in the comic books a little bit because he was retconned after the war because Americans found him too simplistic. He reappeared in the 1960s, I believe, in a Submariner comic book. He kind of refound love for him from this 1960s comic book readers, but it was at least a decade that Cap was put on a shelf, which in the first Avengers movie he goes into the ice, and then in the next Avengers movie he's revived and on the streets of New York and
That
freaked out.
that's at the very end of the first movie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know that Cap showed up in the '40s fighting Hitler,
Mhm.
not from ice. Is that something right? Because I feel like that's part of his comic story. So that you say they retconned, did they also include like a we dug him out of the ice kind of storyline?
I have a vague memory of it, but I couldn't find that plot line in any of my like quick looking through stuff. But the Captain America movie, the way that starts with a scrawny Steve Rogers and a big tall Bucky,
Yeah,
and then going into the capsule and getting the super soldier serum, and the scientist who creates the super soldier serum getting shot
yeah.
by Hydra. In the comic book, it was the Nazis, but in the movie, it was Hydra. All of that is, except for that evil organization Switch, all of that is pretty comic book accurate.
Yes, I just found it in Avengers 4. Steve Rogers was brought back after being frozen, waking up in a drastically different world. So he was frozen for approximately 20 years, I guess. And
Um,
now every time since then, like there's like a sliding time scale because Marvel does that all the time. So the decade at which he reemerges changes.
Exactly. That like man out of time has and the simplistic nature of his view, even in the movie, I believe it's the second Avengers movie. I think it's Age of Ultron, where they're using PG-13 language and Cap says language.
Yeah.
That is a very man out of time thing to say.
Yeah.
And Gideon, in his storyline, he's not quite the man out of time that Cap is, but he is that like, I don't really feel like I'm supposed to be here. It feels like he doesn't trust completely this power that God has given him. There are three different moments where Gideon asks a messenger to prove that he's really coming from God. And he gives these impossible tests, and the messenger makes them happen every time. And even so, Gideon, even the thing with the horns and the smashing jars, that shows a modicum of lack of faith on Gideon's part to believe that God is going to get them through the battle. He decides to do it strategically instead of by just attacking. On the other hand, that could be thought of as noble because one of the things that he and Cap do is try to minimize civilian lives, we'll call it. Cap's creative problem solving was on full display in the first movie when he went to get the flag off the flagpole by taking the flagpole down instead of trying to climb the flagpole.
Yeah, that was great.
Using smarts, yeah.
Yeah, I think both of them are known for that. Both Gideon and Captain America are known for using their brains before their brawn. Like brawn is to back up the brains. It's not.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
Gideon means warrior, correct?
Does it mean warrior or is he a warrior?
I think it means to cut down.
That's what I would say, yeah.
Yeah. There's a rough translation that you could call it warrior. So that's the translation when we use to describe my son's name.
And what he cut down were the altar that his father had. Like he was very anti-idolatry, which is good.
Yeah.
And that anti-idolatry is really Gideon's version of patriotism, in my view.
Well, I think it also aligns with Cap's view of like he doesn't blindly follow a leader, right? You can't put a quote false god in front of me and just tell me to follow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That brings me to Captain America's famous quote. Now, in the movie, it's actually Peggy Carter who says it.
That's America's butt.
Ye- um,
That's
no, Cap does say that.
I think Paul Rudd says it.
And I think Deadpool says it too at some point.
Cap says it to himself when after he fights himself in
Yeah.
Endgame. Yeah.
But Ant-Man first says it into the communicators, and then Captain America defeats himself and goes, I guess I'm not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. But the line I was talking
Oh,
about
sure, yes.
is doesn't matter what the press says, doesn't matter what the politicians or the mob say, doesn't matter if the whole country decides that something wrong is something right. This nation was founded on one principle above all else, the requirement that we stand up for what we believe, no matter the odds or consequences. When the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the whole world, no, you move.
Mm.
Need some of that today.
Right? Captain America is a man out of time, but he is for all time.
Are you ready for me to pull in Star Trek? Or do you want me to wait a little bit?
Hey, man, you do you. That's why we love you.
So by the time this episode is out, the season will be long over, but Starfleet Academy is set very far into the future, like very, very far. And there are some characters who have time traveled and are in some ways out of time. And they're brought in as teachers to the academy because they remember the values of what Starfleet is supposed to be from like some of the golden eras.
Excellent. The quote, no, you move. It's attributed to Peggy Carter in the movies. Captain America says it to Spider-Man in the comic books, but it was pulled from Mark Twain.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I read that very recently, that it is not a word for word Mark Twain quote, but it is very close. We've dipped a toe into this a little bit, but what are your favorite Captain America moments?
I do really enjoy the Bucky storyline.
Mm.
However, Bucky gets thrown off a cliff or out of a train or whatever the story is that they're using, and then having him reappear years later, it's a really great twist from the friendship that they had in their childhood to becoming this to have to fight against that.
Yeah.
It's always like such a good, like I remember watching the movie and I Winter Soldier shows up and I was like, oh, it's Bucky, like, but it's still every time it really gets me that push pull of the heartache and the having to fight against your best friend. I thoroughly enjoyed every time I've seen that storyline. I thoroughly enjoy it.
And it sadly always reminds me of an episode of The Tick called Multiple Santa,
Okay.
where this guy in a Santa Claus suit realizes that through electricity he can reproduce himself. So all of these Santa Clauses are attacking the city, and the Tick finds the original Santa, has him held by the scruff with his fist cocked back, and he just goes, I can't hit Santa. And it's a silly version of what makes Bucky so difficult for Captain America to fight. You cannot fight the guy who took care of you when you were a scrawny regular in who had lost parents. Like Steve Rogers is an orphan, classic superhero trope, and he spent many, many nights on the floor of Bucky's bedroom. Like that's kind of canon. And Bucky and Steve Rogers were our best friends growing up. To turn Steve Rogers' best friend into the fighting machine that would be able to take down the Avengers or Shield or what have you, it's high comic book drama. Like it's kind of the best you can do. It'll be like what I presume this Doctor Doom narrative might be of getting the superheroes' children, perhaps to fight against them.
That's a theory. Nothing's been confirmed.
It's a theory, nothing's been confirmed, but it's also a theory that I happen to like.
We
I
we
like it
keep
too.
referencing the MCU.
Yeah.
We do because that's familiar. It's much more familiar than the comic books.
I mean, I both like it because that is all I know,
Mhm.
and there's a reason why Cap is my favorite Avenger. It's because of what he stands for and those values. Like I'm all for it. And I don't know. I think I'm leaving this conversation feeling like maybe I need to get into the comics. Like I keep asking about who is Captain America in the comics, and there is a way for me to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, this, I will say, I haven't dug into graphic novels in a while, probably because of the master's program, which I officially finished. And
Brag.
as we started the conversation, like I've never read, there was a series that looked like in 2010, Captain America, Man Out of Time. It sounds like a great title. I want to read it. And so this episode is making me want to dig back into the graphic novels, although I'm enjoying some of the books that I'm reading. And so I'm like hesitant to jump into a graphic novel when I really want to go through these books. But summer's coming up. Maybe I'll have some short beach reads.
In the comic books, one of my favorite moments with Captain America is where he is fighting throughout the whole issue with his shield. Like he's using every shield trick in the book, like deflecting bullets in general, deflecting them into targets that he needs to get rid of, using it to save people, ricocheting it off of multiple things to get multiple targets, flying down, like landing on it to cushion his fall, like anything you can do with it with his shield, he does it in this comic book. And then at the very end of the issue, he drops it in the Atlantic Ocean.
Ooh.
And he's just standing. And this is actually the same issue that in the beginning, the scientist asks him about it because it's kind of setting it up to be so important to him. So as he's like the very last cell of this particular comic book is Captain America standing in like a lifeboat surrounded by blue water and this little tiny speech bubble that just says the word gone.
Hmm. I've never seen this image, but this sounds very similar to like Spider-Man's suit in the trash can scene.
Yeah, good pull. It's a lot like it has those same feels.
Yeah.
Again, he's more than a shield, and Tony Stark makes another one, and the people of Wakanda make another one, and as time goes on, the original shield was more like a crest, and it became round later to be more like a target. Like this is something that not only he would rather the bad guys shoot it than him or someone else, but also like he's the target of the villain's dastardly plans, so to speak.
Yeah. And thing in the first one, he started off with a emblematic shield looking like
Yeah,
for show. It was like a toy one for the public performances kind of thing.
in that movie, that toy shield is shaped like the comic book for a shield. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But in the Iron Man movie, we saw a prototype for the shield, so they couldn't go all the way with that.
Yeah.
I hope that as we go through our worlds and sometimes feeling out of time and out of place, we can remind ourselves that when we know that we are doing the right thing, when we are standing beside that river of truth, that we can channel the Captain America that is with all of us and tell the world, no, you move.
I love Cap. I'm excited to learn more.
I'm excited that he's coming back in the MCU.
Me
That was
too.
sort of unexpected. Like everybody dies and they bring them back. So like I didn't expect that Iron Man and Captain America and like that all of them would be gone. Like the comics do it all the time, but he did great. I
Yeah.
think that it's very exciting. And uh I also thoroughly enjoyed it's not Cap, but the Captain Carter series, Agent Carter series
Agent
was really
Carter, yeah.
that was a fun series based off of that sort of element. I was thinking about it recently and I went back and they deal with the dark force that Damar Dorman Davis deals with.
Dormammu?
No. That the doorman from Wonder Man.
Oh, the Doorman. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that dark force is like the big villain in one of the Agent Carter series.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
right.
So there's
Cool.
I forgot it like popped up again there. So just as a connection between those two episodes that we talked about recently.
And in the previews that show Captain America holding the baby, he's
Yeah.
pulling up to the house that he was seen dancing with Peggy in.
Yeah.
So this might be in that timeline.
Yeah, I was happy when he was part like he's a great mixture for the Avengers. Like I think out of the original, some of the original lineups, I still think Black Panther is my favorite of the Avengers series members, just because he has the same, positive, like always do good element to him that Captain America has. But I
Hmm.
think Captain America as an American has a similar personality to some of the other Avengers, but Black Panther brings in a whole new element of, characterization to the Avengers, which is probably why I like him more in the
Yeah,
comparison. But
that's fair. And in the movies, they give, remember at the end of the first Avengers movie where it closes in on Captain America and Black Widow, and he says Avengers, and then it cuts out
yeah,
because Avengers Assemble, like that's his phrase.
yeah,
And he doesn't say it until Endgame. And he says it, you keep thinking he's going to say it, and he'll say something else. And they do a lot of giving key lines that one character says to another, like the whole "it's clobbering time" that everyone but the Thing said in Fantastic Four.
yeah.
And in the Avengers, it was Steve Rogers who said, "Oh, and Hulk, smash." But he gets to say Avengers Assemble, but they really hold off, and I thought that was so well done.
It was definitely a big payoff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Huge,
Yeah,
especially just
it
kind
was
of the gravelly growl of it. Avengers
Yeah.
assemble.
it
Yeah.
was earned.
Ooh, it's earned
Yeah,
so
very
well.
much.
Love
Very
it.
much so. Yeah, that was great. That was very fun.
All right. One more thing. I want to shout out Fabrice Sapolsky, who was our guest for episode 50.
Yeah.
A lot of what we're saying is reminding me of what he tried to encourage all of our listeners and all people to do, and that is read the comic books.
Yeah, do it.
So
Support your local comic book shop, friends.
support your local comic book shop. Go to free comic book day. Go to a comic book day where you got to
Oh, that's
pay.
coming up. This comes out the beginning of April. Free comic book day is always the beginning of May. So just check online, mark your calendars, find your local comic book shop, and get yourself a good couple of free comics.
And let those free comics encourage you to go back and purchase and support
Yes.
your local comic book shop.
Oh, I always grab some good ones when I'm there getting the free comics. I always
Yeah.
pick up a good couple of issues.
Last year for free comic book day, I was in Austin and I got to go with Isaac and Rabbi Shauna Bridgegard Bialik.
Oh, that's right. Forgot about that. I thought you were going to
Super
say
fun.
Ethan. You looked so excited. I thought you were going to say you went with Ethan when you were in Austin. And of course, no, you did not. You didn't even invite him.
I don't think that's true.
I did
Yeah.
hang out with y'all that night.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I wasn't invited.
Would you like to hear more details about how much fun we had, Barack?
No, that's good. I think we're
Oh.
ready to close out.
That'll do it for this episode of Torah Smash. Our fiscal sponsor is Jewish Creativity International. Our theme music was created by Sean Fogel. You can check out Sean's bands and studio work at www.thesleepywest.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen. It helps others find us and is an excellent way to support the podcast. We want to hear from you and continue today's nerdy discussion. Go to torahsmash.com to find where to connect with us online, purchase swag from our store, support us with a donation, find previous episodes, and more. And what would you say to Steve Rogers when he asks you to scoot down from your regular seat at Friday night services? No, you move. I'm sorry, I can't do that, RDY.
This is 104.
Also,
Yeah.
Dave would work.
Oh, man.
I am Barack Malkin, and joining. Sorry, I can only read what's on the screen. I'm the Ron Burgundy of podcasts.
Oh.
It's amazing.
But you have
Whoever is
Michelle.
editing, do not include this segment. Do not.